Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I want to teach you guys how to make this bee theme gnome, and I'm going to start off by explaining how to make the honey stick. I don't know exactly what they're called, but you're going to use yellow paint, and I wanted to start off by making this guy first just because it does take a while to dry. So I went ahead and poured a little bit of yellow paint on it and just did the top part. As you're going to be able to see, I went ahead and just painted it and put it to the side once I was done to make sure it was completely dry by the time I was ready to place it at the end to embellish my gnome. Also, I'm going to, after doing this, I'm going to start on my sock. You're going to need one black sock, a pair of scissors. These were my bad scissors. I couldn't find my good scissors, but eventually I did find my good scissors and ended up using them. So what you want to do is cut right under where the heel goes, and you're going to use the bottom portion of the sock like this. You're going to use that, and you're going to fill it with rice. So you need about a cup of rice. Here I have my rice, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my sock over it, and I'm going to pour it inside. You can also use different types of items. I've seen a bunch of people use beans or other items, but I use rice for my gnomes. And then once you do have your rice in, you're going to use polyfill. You can buy this at Walmart, or you can also just use one of your old pillows. I usually just use my old pillows. I don't throw them out. I go ahead and take out the polyfill and I go ahead and fill them up, and that way it's just easier, and it saves the pillows from going into the trash, and we can use them to make a lot of different things. So go ahead and fill your sock with the polyfill, and once you feel like you have enough in there to where you feel comfortable and it's of your liking, you're going to go ahead and tie the top portion of your sock. Here I have some thread, and all I'm going to do is pull that thread over the sock and give it a few ties around. Usually I tie it 2 to 3 times just to secure it. After I'm done tying it, I am going to put some glue on the top of my gnome just to secure it as well, as you can see here on the video. So I'm just going to give it that third tie and snip off the excess piece of rope, as you can see here how I'm doing. And we're going to put this aside. Here goes my glue. So you want to leave a little bit of the top kind of sticking out, that way you can place it on top of, or just stick it on top of that rope so you're not able to see it, and it kind of makes it a little bit more what's the right word, just it makes it more kind of sturdy to where you have you can glue it. I couldn't find the correct word for that, but yeah, so once you have it and the glue is nice and dry, you're just going to set it to the side. And here we're going to start with our nose. All you need is a piece of pantyhose and again more polyfiber. you're going to place it on this part of the sock. Well, it's actually kind of like a sock, so you're gonna see the area that it doesn't have any seams. So try to place your polyfill in that area and just give it a twist and make it nice and tight. Then again, you can also pat it to where you get it to where you like it, where it's nice and round. And then you're going to grab that rope again and, you know, give it a few times around and then tie it nice and tight. As you can see here, I'm trying to tie it with one hand and it's a little bit hard, but I got it. So once you are done tying it, you're going to snip it right there at the end. You can do like I did with the sock, but you can also just, you know, cut it really close to the edge and not glue like I did the sock. That's what I did with this one. I didn't leave too much of that pantyhose hanging, so I just went ahead and snipped that off. Again, these are my bad scissors. I then actually later found my good ones. And so I'm cleaning up here. So you got to be really careful, because did you just see how that nose just jumped out of my fingers? I actually ended up burning my thumb. It was a pretty nasty burn. So here we have our beard, and this is just faux fur that I bought from Hobby Lobby. You can purchase it at Hobby Lobby. I went also to, what was it, Joann's, and so I like the Hobby Lobby one because they had like a smaller package where it was like $3 and it was 50% off. So all you're gonna do is just pull that fur away to where you have the fur that you want to cut. It's free of that other fur, and the reason why you want to pull it up is because you don't want to cut those hairs off. You kind of want the beard to look like it's hanging, so that's why you got to pull it back. And as you can see on the right hand, I did kind of end up, you know, just cutting some of those hairs off, but it's okay. The gnome ended up looking fine. As you can see right here where I'm holding it, there's kind of like a hole there to where I didn't end up pulling all the hairs to where I didn't end up cutting them, but it's okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and try to, you know, make it as close as possible to the one I made here. So here's my nose, and I'm going to cut the top section just kind of like in a triangle, in an angle here. And you'll see in a minute why I cut it that way. You open it up. So the reason why I cut it this way, just pull off all of those hairs as well, because you're going to have some, every time you make a cut, there's like a bunch of little hairs. But the reason why I cut it like this is because I want the nose to go there. So you'll see in a minute how I kind of pull the beard around my gnome's nose. But we're going to go on to the next step here. I cut a pattern to where I know approximately how much I'm going to cut into my felt. I didn't just want to cut into my felt because sometimes you cut it too small. And so I made out my mold, and then I placed it on my felt. And then after that, I went ahead and cut it. So you want to kind of measure first how your hat is going to turn out to be and how much you want to glue. because every gnome is different. So depending on how much you fill your sock, that's how big or small your gnome is going to be. And so I went ahead and did this. Here I'm gonna start cutting again. I tried folding it in half because I know that my scissors are bad, and I kind of wanted to help myself by doing that, but it still ended up being sucky. So here I go. I bent it in half, you know, and the felt was really thick. It was the really good kind of felt. So when you buy like the cheaper kind, it's kind of thinner, but I didn't like that the cheaper kind is also, you know, because it's thinner, I don't know, it has like a more pale color to it. So I have to buy the darker one just because I like the darkness of it, that contrast that, you know, that it has. So that's why I end up buying the thicker kind, and it's really harder to cut if you don't have good scissors. And of course I ended up finding my scissors after I cut this, but oh well. But excuse me. So here we are. Once I have already cut it, and I'm going to go ahead and fold it to where I measure the head of my gnome, and then that's where I'm going to end up gluing. I also decided to kind of straighten it out at the bottom and kind of cut it, because it did have kind of like a pointy side to it. So I had already kind of measured my gnome before I actually started gluing. That's something that you guys are going to want to do as well before you actually place any glue. So here I just placed the glue, and you got to be really careful not to burn yourself. Again, the burns hurt really, really bad. So just be super careful when you are using these. I did end up buying some fingertip covers that they sell at the Dollar Tree. Those are usually good for when you're doing these kind of crafts, but again, I didn't use them. I forgot where I placed them. So once your hat is done, we're going to fill it with polyfill. And as you can see, I have a spot there on my gnome hat where you can see the glue. It doesn't really matter because at the end, I'm going to place that yellow strip over it of different color felt. It's going to be yellow felt. So don't worry much about it if you mess up a little. Once you have it to where it's of your liking. Some people like to keep it less full. I like it to be nice and hard and full of felt. On the ones that I decide to kind of bend the hat, I don't make it super full, but on this one I want it to be nice and pointy, so that's why I made it super full. Next we're going to cut the yellow felt, and it doesn't matter if it's a little bit off, because at the end we're going to end up just gluing this, and then we're going to tuck in the bottom part like this and gluing it all around. So it doesn't matter if it's straight or not, because you're actually just going to be tucking it in, and you don't need 100% clean cut. I would rather use the edge on the top part. That way you have the clean cut to where you can see it, and then the part that is kind of off, you're going to be gluing and tucking in, and that way nobody will ever notice that, you know, you messed up. So It does take a while to dry the actual glue. So make sure that before you move on to gluing the next piece, you do kind of hold it for a minute. I had to put my 2 fingers over this section just because I didn't hold it long enough, and so it was coming off. So just make sure that you are, holding it for quite a while before you actually glue it down. Also, do a section at a time like I'm doing, because if you glue it all around and then try to place the yellow felt in there, I think that it's going to dry. Your glue's going to dry out by the time that you get all the way around. So do it a little bit at a time. So here it is, almost done. I went ahead and fast forward it because it does take a while, and I'm trying to make this video to where I explain step by step just so you understand exactly how I made it, and I'm trying to show it on the video as well just so you won't get lost. And here it was kind of off, so I kind of pulled the felt a little bit up, as you can see there. It was not, the pieces were not overlapping 100%. So I put some glue on the inside and I held it down so I can see how much I had to pull out. The glue wasn't 100% dry, and that's why I was able to kind of, just pull it up to where it was overlapping perfectly. Here you can see how I pulled it up and it came out really nice. There it goes. I think this is a section where I pull it up with my fingers. I guess I didn't show it, so here is the hat, and now we're going to put our nose on our gnome. I'm showing you, my burn. That's where I burnt my finger. The nose actually jumped onto my finger. So please be very careful when you do this step, as those noses are very tricky and they jump out of your hands and they end up burning you. So this time I was gonna put the glue on the nose, but then I ran out of glue sticks, so I put another glue stick in and decided to not make that mistake twice. See, it just jumped out of my fingers again, so I decided to just go ahead and put the glue on the actual sock. That way, if the nose ends up jumping, it won't bite me again. So place enough glue. You don't want to be stingy with your glue. Just, put a bunch on it, because it does need a lot of glue to kind of stick down, and just hold it in place until it dries. Next step, you're going to place your beard, your fake fur underneath that nose, and tighten it as much as possible. The reason why you want to tighten it really good underneath that nose and kind of pull it around it is because that way you're going to have that mustache effect, and you can pull out that mustache and it kind of just flowers around that nose, and it looks really, really nice. So if you want that effect, go ahead and pull that fake fur around that nose as much as possible, and then glue it. That way it looks really nice like this. So we're going to unstick it here. My nose kind of was coming off. It wasn't 100% dry, so just make sure that it is dry. And I'm trying to do it as fast as possible because I'm making a video here and I'm trying to explain it to you guys. So the faster that I do it, the better for you guys. You guys don't spend too much time here watching it. So I went ahead and put a dab of glue underneath that nose, And now I'm going to place some glue underneath my fake fur that is going to make my beard.
And try to get these hairs out.
And carefully place it underneath that nose and wrap it securely. You want to get it right the first time. Just pull it as much as possible because, excuse me, if you don't end up pulling that beard, you can actually kind of see the fake fur seams, and you don't want to be able to see that underneath your nose. So just make sure you're pulling it all the way up. Next, we're going to secure that beard by gluing the two top edges. And
like I said, it
give it a minute so it dries 100%.
I'll be grabbing.
And here is that
piece of
nice, pretty mustache.
here.
Now we're going to work on the arms. On this one, I decided to do it different just because I saw another video. A girl decided to do her gnome with these cute little circle knob hands. So I wanted to give it a try. Measure how long you want your arms. So I wanted to do it that way, but I want my gnome to be holding something, and it wasn't going to be enough. So I'm going to cut it long ways just so I have enough to where I can make 2 arms from me cutting this felt long ways. So once you know how long you want your arms, just go ahead and cut. This time I had my good scissors. So you see I'm not struggling as much as I was struggling when I did have my pink scissors. And once you have your piece, it doesn't have to be perfect again, because we are going to be folding and gluing. So I want 2 arms. I'm going to fold this in half, and each half is going to make 1 arm. So go ahead and cut that. And now you have your 2 pieces for your 2 arms. After this, I'm going to take some pipe cleaners that I have. And also, again, I'm going to use half for one arm and half for the other. And I use these just to make my arms flexible. As you can see, I place those inside. So you're going to go ahead and cut in half. So first I bend it just to know where, the half point is. Then I cut, and I will use 1 for each arm like this. I'm going to grab my glue gun, and I'm going to bend the ends as I'm doing right here on the video, because that way there is no risk of, poking anybody once your gnome is done. So go ahead and bend on both of those pipe cleaners. And then you want to place a strip of glue down the middle to hold those pipe cleaners in place, like so. And then put your pipe cleaner on top of the glue. Sometimes because of the bristles, you will need to press down, and you don't want to do it with your fingers because you'll end up burning yourself. So use a pencil, use, some scissors or something to help you do that, just so you won't get burnt. Here I'm placing glue again down my second piece of felt, and go ahead and follow that step one more time.
With my scissors.
Squeeze it down, make sure it's secure.
Like that.
Don't burn yourself.
So
So once you're done, you're going to grab that little ball. On my other gnome, as you can see, I made little mittens for him, but I wanted to try this method as well. So, and this is my first time making gnomes. So I wanted to try another method. And in this case, I placed some glue at the end of my cuff or my little arm, and then I kind of went around that circle and glued it. And then when I was at the edge of my felt, I went ahead and glued placed some glue on the edge and just folded it over so it would stay in place. So that's how we ended up having our little arm. And I kind of glued this one to where the circle wasn't popping out as much. This is my first time doing it. So by the time I made my second one, I learned. So as you can see here, I'm kind of pressing on it just so it'll dry and it'll stay in place. I tried pushing my little ball out a little. It just wasn't moving. And as you can see, it'll go here and it's totally bendable. So now we're going to work on our second arm. Once again, we're going to be placing the glue. I decided to go with the wider side just to make sure that it would cover my whole little ball. And these are styrofoam balls. I actually had them from Christmas. I did some crafting during Christmas and I had some little styrofoam balls. I got them at Hobby Lobby and they were different sizes in one package. So I grabbed, I think, the smallest size, and that's what fit my gnomes. So here we go again with the glue at the edge. And we're just going to go ahead and fold that over and hold it in place for a while. That way it gives it time to dry.
These burns are mean, evil mean.
Just hold. And as you can see on this one, you can clearly see that it's sticking out way more than my first one. And that's how I actually liked it. So anytime in the future when I do decide to make gnomes, I'm going to be using this method and see, comparing them.
From the Dollar Tree.
The first one, it's way more on the inside. So this little cute little thing, it's a headband. I don't know why they would put wings on the headband, but I like them. They're really cute, and I decided to use them for my gnomes. So they look like little bee wings, and I'm going to be removing them off of that headband. Like you see here, I placed the little antenna. I don't know how you say it. Anyways, I'm not saying it right, but you get the point. I'm going to put the little antlers, I'll call them antlers, on my gnome and the little wings, just so it looks like a tiny little bee. And the way that I do it is I'm not pressing glue into the headband. I'm just using the tip of my glue gun to kind of heat up the glue that is already in place. And that's going to loosen up the wing to where I can just pull it off. So you're going to see it in a minute. I was actually trying to take off the tag that came with the headband, just so you won't be able to see it, because this is the back part of the wing. And if I leave it there, you're going to be able to see a tag. So it's kind of hard doing it by yourself. If you can't do it by yourself, just go ahead and ask somebody to help you. If you have somebody at home, you know, somebody can grab one of the wings and then you can hold the gun and one part of the headband with your other hand, and that would help a lot. But I'm all by myself, and as you can see, it's coming off. There we are. It's off, and this is what it looked like. And we're going to go ahead and remove our second wing. I've already removed it. I kind of cut the video because it's taking too long. I don't want it to be too long. So now I'm going to cut the antennas off, and those we will be placing on our gnome hat. I do decide whenever I have extra pieces, I try to save them for any future crafts. And that's what I did with my headband. So now we grab our arms, and you kind of want to measure before you actually glue. And the seam part, you actually want it to be underneath to where you cannot notice it or see it when you glue it on. So make sure you do that, because or else you'll end up with a seam showing, and it just gives it a better aspect when you aren't able to see it versus when you can actually, notice it. So, like I said, you want to grab both your arms, make sure they are positioned correctly. And I don't know, I was kind of playing with this gnome. I didn't know if I wanted him holding a sunflower. I thought that was super, super cute. Maybe I will make one. I thought it was weird because it's a boy. It's supposed to be a boy gnome. So I thought I would make a girl gnome and make her hold the flower instead versus our guy gnome. And here is our honey stick. And I don't know if you can tell on my gnome in the back, but he has a honey stick holding in his right arm. Is it left arm? Because he's facing us. I think it's his left hand, but it's on our right hand side. Anyways, he is holding a honey stick, and it has a little bee stuck to the tip of it. And I was kind of playing with it here, just going back and forth and deciding what I wanted to do with this gnome. But since I did say that I was going to make a replica of the first one, I went ahead and just went with the honey stick versus putting that flower. I did end up also grabbing a different flower, which was way bigger, and trying to kind of play with it, but this is